ma'am. Good afternoon. Welcome to Creating Space. Today we are going to be having an amazing conversation with a wonderful human who's going to be joining us shortly, and I will let her introduce herself. Cami, good to see you. Can you send me a request to join? It should say, as soon as you join, you should have received a message that's saying ask to join Sam's video, Community Tampa Bay's video. If you hit that, it'll let you do it. There we go.
Polling in that psychos class by putting myself on his radar.
Hi, Tammy. Hi, Masa. We're just waiting for Cami to come on.
I never imagined that my first life was going to be like this. Coronavirus making changes.
I am so happy we're doing this together. This is awesome.
It's like first time ever.
No, absolutely. Also, just letting you know, okay, like I have my chat open on my Facebook chat open on my laptop, so if anything happens we can communicate via Facebook chat as well, just in case. Yesterday when Masa and India were talking, you know, there's a couple of technical things that they had to deal with, right? So yeah. If anything happens and like you get kicked off or I get kicked off, we'll just join right back in. Don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. These things are like bound to happen. We're also figuring it out, and all of our people are very.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people in the platforms right now. That's
Exactly.
why it's like so hard to yeah,
and everyone's figuring it out. So you know, everyone's very accommodating of everybody else. Yeah. So we'll just wait like a couple more minutes, you know, so Instagram can let humans know. I know a lot of humans were.
Tammy saying hi. I think Masa is saying hi too. Hi, y'all.
They're both here.
Yes.
So we've got some awesome. There's one other human who's joined us. So yeah, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be really good, Kimmy. There we go. I think that might be Marielle who just joined as well. Awesome. Hey, folks. Thank you all so much for joining us. All right, cool. So we'll go ahead and get started. And as folks join us, you know, if they have any questions, they can ask us in the comments, so on and so forth, right? So thank you, Masa. So we started, Tammy, doing Creating Space because we didn't just want to be the humans, you know, there's, as CTB, as a 3-person team and as Community Tampa Bay at large, there's only so much perspective that we can offer on the things that are happening based on our own lens, right? But our community is massive and has so much knowledge and so much experience. So we were very much like, it is our responsibility to tap into our community and see what those other various perspectives can look like, right? And so now with this shift to virtual, I know that just in the last few weeks, we've had so many conversations before the whole coronavirus thing came up. We've had so many conversations in, you know, Anytown Institute and Advocacy Academy and all of that, talking about students who are second language learners of English, right? And how the school system affects them and what the challenges are that they face in traditional education itself. And so now shifting everything to virtual education, I was thinking there are probably so many more things that we don't recognize, so many more challenges that we don't recognize that these young humans have, right? And so I wanted to bring you on to have a conversation about that. But first, I would love it if you could introduce yourself to our community, and then we can take it from there. Cool?
Sure. Well, so I am a Cuban immigrant. I just recently became a citizen in the United States. I started with Anytown. I feel it was like when I was a freshman in high school. Yeah, I feel like it was a freshman in high school. And then throughout the years, I've been a delegate. And now I'm a senior in college, and I'm just, you know, keeping with the family and trying to do volunteer work and trying to use everything that I learned in the community, like all the tools that I learned in, and just put it in my everyday life. So yeah, pretty much that.
Awesome. You're what year are you in college now?
I'm a freshman right now. I'm almost finishing my freshman year. So I started with a freshman in high school, and now I'm a freshman in college.
Wow, I met you. You and I actually, well, Cami and I share one very special thing for me in common is that both of us did our first Anytowns together. It was my first Anytime as a volunteer, and it was your first Anytime as a delegate, right? Session
Yes.
1, 2016. I
You
remember
were
that.
you were in my delegate. You were in my what was the name? I
Dialogue group.
forget. The dialogue group. Yeah,
I love group. Yep, absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah, fam. So, in keeping with the topic that we, that we just stated, right? Like thinking about young humans who are students who may have just arrived in the U.S., maybe shortly before this crisis hit, or have been in the U.S. for a couple of years, but are still like getting their feet wet and learning how the education system works, right? I want to have a conversation about what it is. First of all, what that experience is like. So if you would be willing to share your own experience, starting from there, and then talking about, challenges and what some recommendations are that you would make.
I feel like it's really important to understand that besides everything that's going on, the system is already broken. First of all, there's not a system. Well, for students for ESOL students that are coming to the United States. Let me ask you a question, Sam. When was the last time you used a dictionary?
Like a physical dictionary or online?
Like a physical dictionary? Like, yeah, the books with the paper. When was the last time you used a dictionary? Yeah.
Well, I'm actually using one right now to prop my computer up. But I don't know when the last time was that
When was the last time you tried to find a word in the dictionary?
I don't know, fam. It's been a really long time. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years even.
How long would you think it will take you if I give you a dictionary? Let's say English to Chinese. How long do you think it will take you to find a word and translate it? Just a single word.
One word?
Just one word.
Maybe about a minute and a half.
A minute and a half. What about if I give you a paragraph? How long do you think it will take you to translate a paragraph if I only give you a dictionary?
Paragraph, maybe like 6, 7 sentences. I would say hour and a half.
Hour and a half, maybe more. Interesting. What about if I give you a whole exam that you had to translate? Whole big exam that you had to translate only with the dictionary?
That's the only tool I have? Nothing else?
That's the only tool I have. You cannot use anything else?
12 hours, 8 to 12 hours. I would say.
Maybe 12 hours?
Because also like context, right? Like I might read one thing and then it translates into something else. I don't know,
And we have stuff in English, that phrases that are like, it's raining cats and dogs. And you may think that. That's nothing to do.
Hold on. Your connection was slightly slow. What was the last thing you said? Say that again.
I said sometimes we have phrases like it's raining cats and dogs, and when in reality, when you think about the contest, it's not raining cats and dogs, but just the phrase that we use when there's thunderstorm. We have stuff like that, right? Can you hear me? Because I think we're having issues with the internet.
Right. I think that would be really, really difficult. I mean, I think I could safely say I would fail the exam.
Oh,
like I might be able to finish it in 8 to 12 hours, but I think I know I would still fail it. Like I am fluent in other languages too. And I think like that knowledge lets me know that I might be able to finish in 8 to 12 hours, but I will fail it. It's not possible.
And let me tell you something, Sam. You do not have 8 hours to finish that exam.
Right.
Maybe an hour and a half if they give you extra time, but you don't. Let me ask you something else. Do you think that if we have a different subject, will that affect the amount of time that you have to finish your exam? Let's say that I'm giving you a math exam or a science exam. Do you think that has any effect on it?
I think science for sure, because I think there's a lot more contextualizing with science. I think this is just purely exam, right? We're not talking about actually studying, learning anything.
We're just talking about
just the exam. Okay. With math, I think my last math exam that I took was when I was in 10th grade. That was like 19 years ago. Okay. So just keep that in mind. But I think like math may be a little bit easier because it's a little more universal, right? And we're talking numbers. I'm assuming it's the same letters of the English alphabet. Again, I don't know if it's the same letters if you're talking about Mandarin.
I don't know if it's the same letters of the English alphabet that they use for math. I don't know how that works. But assuming that it's the same, I think math would be a little more easier than science, because I know, like, with science, you know, depending on what it is, biology or whatever it is, you have to explain the processes and stuff like that. So I just can't see. I just don't know.
I think, like, the point that I'm trying to say is that for ESOL students, which are students that come to the United States from many countries and have English as their second language, these are the only resources that they have to succeed in school and in exams. But the problem is that one of the biggest exams that we have, which is the SAT, the ACT, all these kind of standardized exams that it can define your whole life pretty much. It can define if you enter to a college, it can define if you graduate from high school. These exams, you're not even allowed to use dictionaries. So the system that we have created pretty much throw you into the fire and expect you to succeed without having the tools for it.
Right. So you can't use dictionaries? You're not allowed.
You can't. You're not allowed to use dictionaries. You won't have extra time. You won't take it in a different room. That's how it works.
Okay.
You have the tools, like regular exams, like in school, regular exams, yes, you can use the dictionary, but we already came to the conclusion that it's incredibly hard for the students to translate the whole exam using only a dictionary. When the test doesn't make sense itself, how will they be able to succeed?
Right.
Exactly. So we already have this problem. We don't have tools for them to succeed. And now with everything that is going on with the pandemic, with the COVID-19, it's even worse. Because if you think about it, a lot of the times teachers, what they do is that they give student grades depending if they see them working. Like, I remember one of the phrases that my teachers used to say is like, well, honey, try the best you can, because what else can they do? I cannot understand them. They cannot understand me. And they were trying their best with the only tools that they have. So the way of reassurance is just try the best that you can. I remember that I was in middle school, and I think by the end of middle school, I was able to get all A's except history that I got a C. It was just a really difficult class for me because everything was in English. And I remember that the teacher gave me a C because she saw me working hard. But now with this online classes, the teacher cannot even see you. So what grade can they give you? They don't see you putting effort into anything because it's just online. The other day, I have a friend, they recently came to the United States, and her brother was struggling with like these online classes. And they called me and they asked me like, hey, can you please translate? Can you please like help me out? Because he didn't even know how to use the technology. He didn't even know how to, do his schoolwork. And the teacher will only see that you're not uploading stuff. And well, I mean, eventually with everything that's going on, you're going to receive a grade for what you upload. But these kids are struggling. The students are struggling.
Of course. Cami, I am really struggling to hear you. Like, I know what you're saying, but I'm slightly like also reading your lips. I'm really struggling to hear you. Would you be able to X out and come back in?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, thank you. Hold on, folks. Cami's coming right back. Okay, so don't leave us. She's coming right back. We will continue this very important, very necessary discussion that we are having in this current moment. Better? Yeah, okay, good. I went back in, I was on my data, so now I've shifted back to Wi-Fi. Let's see if this works out. Cami is here, and she has sent a request to be in the video. Cami. Awesome. Let's wait. Hey, you're back.
It's so much better now.
Oh my God, so much better now. This is so much nicer.
I can't actually see you now.
I know. Folks, thank you all so much for your patience and for everybody for jumping back on. So Cami and I were talking about some of the struggles that she had as an ESOL student in both middle school and high school. Right. And some of the effort that teachers were putting in to help her out. You were saying you got a C. That's the last thing I heard. You were saying you got a C on one of your exams in one of your classes history because your
Mhm.
teacher saw you making an effort. But now with virtual education, you can't even see students making an effort, right? So one of the things that resonated for me when you were talking about the whole, like, you were making me do the dictionary exercise, right? Like I like calling it that because it makes so much sense. It literally puts you in someone else's shoes and makes you think from their perspective. And I definitely did not come here as a second language speaker of English, and I didn't come at an age as young as you were, right? I came here at a much later age, right? And even then, yes, learning cats and dogs is something that I knew when I was in India too. But other like specific English idioms that are Americanisms, right? Like American idioms, right? Used to confuse me a lot when people used to say a lot of things. In addition to that, even though I knew the language, figuring out how the system worked, because we take exams differently in India than the way American colleges do exams, right? Like we don't have SATs and ACTs and all of that. So that was like a whole other thing that I had to wrap my head around, you know, and it was such a wild perspective. And I've shared this with you and with Anytown Institute before. So since I've shared it with my young humans, I feel a little stronger to be able to share this with the rest of the universe. Yeah. If my family sees this, it's going to be a conversation, but whatever. My GPA, when I first came to the US, the first 2 semesters that I was here, I went to Michigan State University. I left that university with a GPA of 1.8.
And if you think about it, a lot of countries don't have something called GPA. A lot
Correct.
of students don't know what a
Don't know what it
GPA is at all.
Right, exactly. You know, so like it's so easy. I feel like the system is set up that makes it really easy to fail, but not really easy to succeed.
Mhm.
Yeah, like the effort doesn't match the success rate, you know? So, yeah, so you got that C,
Yes.
yes? How did that make you feel?
Horrible. Because I remember, first of all, I had the whole alphabet when I started middle school. I had F, C's, D's. Like I didn't have a Z because that was not part of the grading system. If not, I would have it. I remember going to class and just sitting in the back and didn't truly know what was going on. Like that was the first like period of my education in the United States. And then I somehow ended up like actually learning a little bit more, trying harder, and got acing all my classes except the history class. I just couldn't. I worked hard, but I just couldn't. And it always seemed like my effort was never enough. It always seemed like no matter how much I try, I'm always just only gonna get a C. And I really try, because the teacher even gave me at the end of the year, the teacher gave me like a little diploma that says the hardest worker in the class. And that was beautiful. That was an awesome diploma, but I wasn't able to get into a good magnet program in high school because my grades didn't. Like I remember, because how it worked from my middle school, it's that they give you a paper and you fill out what program you would like to apply of. And I remember that I sit down and the teacher looked at me and directly say, do not mark that one. It was a technology program for the high school that I went. It had a good name for itself. They needed specific grades, stuff like that. And I remember the teacher looked at me and said, do not go for that one. Do not mark that one. Just straight like that.
Why do you think that? Why do you think she said? You know why she said that. What do you feel?
To be honest, those are stuff that I think about now. But when I was like at that moment, like I didn't even like thought about it. And it's because my grades. I feel like first of all they didn't thought that I could eventually like succeed in that kind of program, because it was a program that the classes were supposed to be a little harder and the material was supposed to go faster. But I was able to succeed because at the end, even if I wasn't inside of the program, I took my math classes with the teachers in that program. I took my science classes with the teachers in that program because I was able to do that in high school. It's just that the expectations that they had for myself were really low.
Wow.
They were just really low. I don't think they thought that I could potentially be able to succeed in a program like that. And I don't think they did it in a bad way. It's just that I don't feel like they had the tools, nor the resources, nor the knowledge to work with students like me. Because I was one of the first only Spanish speaking and non-English speaking students in the school. So they were not prepared. The system is just not prepared. Even though we are a big majority, even though we have so many students coming from all over the world, at least from my experiences, we do not have created a system that can help us succeed.
Mm. Yeah, so Cassie brings up a point in the comments saying they underestimated you, which is true, right? Like they underestimated you while at the same time probably thinking that they're doing what's best.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
without giving you a fighting chance.
Yes.
Right. So Cami, how did that change for you?
What do you mean about this?
So you said, right, like you worked to you said you somehow you ended up getting A's, and then but you got this 1C, and then as you moved into college, even though that was the mentality that your counselor had, you were in college. Now, as you moved into high school,
yes.
even though that was the mentality that your counselor had, you still had those math classes, those science classes with those teachers, and you still became more and more successful, right? So what were the things, what were the tools that you either created for yourself or utilized that made that happen for you?
I feel like one of the things is like I started fresh, I started fresh in school where no one knew me, and I feel like the beginning was difficult because at that moment, even though I had been in middle school for a while, I only know how to ask where was the restroom and where was the cafeteria. Like those were my survival questions to be able to start high school. And I feel like since the teachers didn't know me and I was able to start fresh and they didn't have a perspective of myself, I felt more comfortable. I felt like I would go to class and I would just try. Stuff that I did is I remember that I tried to always sit in the front of the class. I tried to translate everything that the teacher was saying. Like after school, I will try to translate. I will try to I would just try. And I felt like in middle school, with the perspective that they already had of me, I just couldn't. But one of the problems that I encountered was that the program that I was in, I didn't have a math teacher 9th grade or 10th grade. And I didn't at all. There was just not a math teacher. My report said TBA, to be announced. There was a whole group of students that didn't have teachers at all. And the way that I was able, I feel like I went to one of my counselors and I asked them to if I could potentially get classes from this other program. And because I have done well in my other classes, they were able to move me, and I took science classes and math classes with them, and they gave me the opportunity, and I was able to prove myself, and I was able to go to class, and I was able to try. But I feel like it was also really difficult because my school, because how the process goes, it's that when I enter my high school, they ask my mom. They were like, we have another high school near us that has an ESOL program. We do not have an ESOL program. They didn't have an ESOL program at all. That was not even part of their system. They were like, we have another school with an ESOL program. Do you want us to change her over there so she has more support? But since my mom and I went through all this problem with the ESOL and other schools, she was like, no, let's just have her there. She would just try to do the best part she can. And the teachers, like, they started learning with me. We were learning together. We created our own way. Like I will be in class, and if I didn't understand something, they will call the Spanish teacher that we had in the class, and the Spanish teacher will like try to help me out, and they will pair me with other students that know English and maybe knew some Spanish. Like we created our own thing. It was a fresh start in general because they didn't have students like me. They didn't have an ESOL program. They had never experienced something like that. So we start fresh. And that's what I feel like the system needs. It needs something new. It needs something that can potentially actually help students.
So what I'm hearing is that teachers are willing to do what's necessary, but the system in itself restricts them from doing what they can, which is why y'all had to come together and create
and
this.
Find a solution. Yes.
Right. And we have an amazing question here that I was thinking, what about students and families who don't know how to advocate for themselves? Because I've seen you from the time you were a freshman, right? And I don't know who you were in middle school, but I feel like you've always been somebody who advocates first for other people, right? But also you're confident in advocating for yourself in general, right? But so many other students probably might not have even thought, hey, I can actually ask if I can be put in these classes, and may have just said, oh, I guess 9th and 10th grade, I'm not doing math, and just let it be, because they don't necessarily feel like they have permission to ask or permission to stand up for themselves or permission to make a suggestion like that, right?
Yes.
And so those students maybe get left behind.
That is so true. That is so true. And I saw it throughout all my high school experience. I feel like one of the things that we did is that since the schools thought that it worked with one student, they started bringing more students like me. Like they brought two Dominican people. There were brothers, and they're really good friends of mine. That I think they were watching the Instagram. So interesting. They were watching it. They came and we start to help each other. I feel like it's really important for people who speak their language. I feel like it's really important for people from their community to step up and help out, because I feel like it was my duty as someone who went through all that trouble, and it was my duty as someone who was able to find a way to help them too, because they have a voice. It's just that we just have to I feel like others have to listen to it. Yeah, exactly. They have a voice. I remember when I was in Cuba, I was in every single activity out there. I was saying poems. I was an actress. I was dancing. And when I came to the United States, I was just sitting in the back of the corner, like doing nothing. And that's just not who I was.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I just loved about Anytown, that they saw light in that girl with broken English, and I feel like that's the same thing for so many other students. And I feel like one of the things that because for example, my mom didn't know how the system worked. My mom didn't know that you needed a GPA. My mom didn't know what a FAFSA is. She didn't know, because there was no places that she could go and find information. So I feel like students should schools should have places where parents can go to and find information, because there's just none. Like I felt that the kind of the roles reversed for me, because now I was the one who helped my mom fill out her FAFSA application, and I was the one who helped her saying like, hey, this is what an online school looks like, and this is what you can do, because sometimes there's no support whatsoever for students like that.
So like an international student resource center.
There should be something like that. There has to be something like that. And it doesn't make sense in a place that's filled with so many students like you, so many students like so many students that went through worse situations, because I am really privileged that I was able to hide. It was such my experience wasn't bad compared to many other students that have it even worse, and it's like there should be a place for students like us to be able to go and find resources. There should be places where parents can go and find these resources as well, because at the end of the day, we just want the students to succeed. And if that's the point, why wouldn't we take our time and create safe places like that?
Hey man, that's a question for the ages, right? At the end of the day, we just want our young humans to succeed. So why won't we just invest in their success?
Exactly.
Thank you so much for recognizing that privilege also, Camila. I really appreciate that, because I know you've had it tough. And even in that space, you still know that others have it tougher. And I really appreciate you being able to recognize that. Thank you. So now, like with COVID, and everything moving virtually, right?
Mhm.
Our young humans who are having trouble succeeding in a traditional education system already, yes. Overnight, things have completely changed. In about a week, they're moved to online spaces. I know that schools are doing their best to get the technology to all of the humans. At the same time, like, I wonder, with everything that you're talking about and with everything that you've told me before about your experience, like your mom, you said, right? Like, she does not know so many things. I'm confident that if you were in this situation in school, right now, she might not have known how to operate any of the
Yes.
things, or right. So what are some of your concerns, having been in that position, you know, but in a physical school, when you think about, oh my God, now this is happening there in virtual school, what are some challenges do you think that young humans, I know that you were trying to help somebody the other day when we were chatting. What are some of the challenges that you know of or foreseeing or worried about with virtual school?
Is something as simple as having internet in your house. Because if you think about it, there's many families that are undocumented in this country that do not have access to put Wi-Fi in the house that they're living in. And if you're doing online schools and you don't have internet, or you don't have a computer because you don't have money to pay for a computer, how are you going to do your classes? That's just the basics of it that I feel like a lot of families are at this point are struggling. And I know that there were some resources for them to help, but if you are an undocumented family, you don't have access to the minimal resources that are out there at this point.
Right.
So that's just the basics of everything that's going on. And it's just, I feel like one of the main things, it's like a lot of the students get grades based on how much they try, how much the interaction of the teacher trying to ask the teacher questions, trying to just the teacher seeing them trying. In online schools, this is a problem, because if you don't turn in your math work, and we are not in the same class, so I do not see you working, what grade am I gonna give to you? And the grades matter. Like, at the end of the day, it goes in your transcript, and eventually we'll decide where you're gonna go in college and what are you going to do. And it's not their fault, and it's not being provided in their language neither, because it's in English. So it's really difficult. It's a challenge. It's, for something that was hard, it just became way harder. And you're expected to succeed, and you're expected to find ways without having the tools at all.
Right. Do you know of any students who are in school currently who are experiencing these issues?
Yes, I do. A friend of mine, she and her family, they recently came to the United States, and her brother, he was already struggling in school just to understand everything, especially because he came in like at an age which is like, I think he's a sophomore or junior in high school, and that's a critical point, because then you're starting to taking major tests. And I tried to help him and to like kind of like translate to him what the buttons in the online and what does like Turnitin at this time means and how you can do it. But a lot of these classes, they have like a description of what you have to do, and it's really hard for him sometimes to understand, like, what does the teacher mean by doing this? What is an LMA style? Like, he didn't know what that was and how to do it. Or it's really different. Like, they're from Cuba, and how the system works there, it's completely different how the system works here. And he is a great student, and his parents in Cuba were incredibly supportive, but they just don't have the tools to help him at this point.
Yeah, 100% understand that, especially with like citations and stuff. If both the system and the language are new to you, I can't even fathom, like, I can't even think about how there is a possibility for success unless there is, like you said, a full overhaul of the system itself. Yeah. Are you comfortable if we go into a feeling space?
Yeah, sure.
Over, yeah. Thinking about like this young human, right, and the effort that he's putting in sounds very similar to what you had talked about your experience, yeah. So being a successful student, a really good student in Cuba, and then coming here and then not being able to succeed at the same rate, doing everything that you can, right, making all the effort, but not being able to succeed. Not just about the C that you got, but like about the overall process. What are some of the feel? How does that impact you emotionally?
I feel like it changed my whole personality itself. I feel like it shaped me to a completely new person because I was really outgoing. I was to the extreme. I just loved the attention. Like I loved to be in front of everyone and say stuff. And then when I moved here, I changed it completely. I was the kind of person that had a terrible time speaking in front of a group of people because the language barrier, it goes to like other levels. It was just like it took me time to understand like, oh, I deserve to be here. I'm learning a language. I will eventually succeed. Even if they don't think I will eventually succeed. Even if sometimes I feel like I don't have the support because they just don't know how to help me. I will eventually succeed. But that takes time and that takes a lot of effort. And I feel like when people think, oh, a language barrier, they only think about like the physical part of it, but there's like a whole emotional, like there's so much emotion in, and yeah, I have slowly but surely been able to recover myself and be able to express myself and to be back to that outgoing person that I was, but it completely changed me. Like I remember the first 2 years I was here, it took my mom came to the conclusion of like, okay, we just have to go back because I started to lose weight. I was pale. I didn't want to eat. I just wanted to go back so bad. Like I just felt like I don't deserve to be here or like all the stuff. And it was such a difficult time because I was just not myself anymore. I was just not myself anymore. I was someone completely different. And that's just how much power language have in communication. Because language means that you can communicate with someone else and you can have like this social conversation. And I just, for 2 years straight, I was just not able to have it at all. So it's like, yeah, it's a difficult process. It's a really difficult process. That's why we need to create something better for them.
Definitely. Thanks so much for sharing that, fam. I
No
really
problem.
appreciate your honesty. You're getting a lot of hearts from our community,
My heart.
letting you know that you're loved. Yeah, no, I hear that. Did it have, so obviously it had an impact on your family too, right? If you're making such big decisions, as potentially going back, that's a massive impact that it had.
Massive because we spent like around 8 or 9 years leaving everything behind to be able to come here. And then, yeah, it was tough for my mom too because I, like, in front of her eyes, I was just like completely changing. I was becoming like this like dark human being that wasn't able to like, I remember like, I feel like one of the points that we just touched like rock bottom was, I think she was dropping me off for school and every day was a problem because I didn't want to go to school at all because I felt so uncomfortable and I didn't know how to speak to other people. So I was like I remember that every morning I would cry and I would cry. She would do my hair, I'll be crying. I will brush my teeth and I will be crying. And then we just took the car and we went to school. And at one point I was like, I just don't have friends. Like, I remember that I yelled at her because I was so upset. I feel bad for my mom because I was so upset at her and I gave her such a hard time. And I remember that I told her, I was like, you brought me here. I do not want to be here. Like, I don't have friends. And she looked at me straight in the eyes with a blank face. And she said, I feel like, and wait, I'm trying to translate into Spanish. She said something along the ways like, I did not bring you here to have friends. Like, I did not work so hard for you, like, to just be here because of friends. Like, but like, I like through like a strong face, and she's like, now get out of the car and go to class. and like really strong. Like she was not playing around. I remember that I got out of the car. I went to class and I was just so upset because no one understood me. And now that I grew up and I know that she like drove a mile, parked her car, and just like bawl crying. She just cry and cry. Right. And that's just what I needed though. I needed her to be like strong, and you gotta go to class and you gotta learn and you have to do this and you have to do that, because I just didn't have other support than that.
Yeah. Absolutely, of course. So much love to you and your mom, like I've had the opportunity of seeing y'all at different places in this journey, and I feel like where your mom can't, you do, where you can't, she does. You're always just both rising up to the occasion and supporting each other so much. So I'm so happy things worked out for both of you.
Me too.
It should not be this difficult, right?
No.
It shouldn't be this difficult.
That's what we need to create, the tools for the students to succeed.
Absolutely. So let's move into that space then, right? Like there's so much hurt, there's so much pain that is caused by a system that has people within that system who wants to help, who wants to do the right thing, right? And like you said, your teachers worked with you, like they grew with you to create this non-existent program, right? Like unofficial program to help you succeed. Your peers were a part of that. Your Spanish teacher was a part of that, right? Like, so all of these humans came together to make sure that, hey, we're a community. Let's make sure this human needs us. Let's make sure we can help her succeed. And then after that point, had already built the tools that were not provided by the system, had already built enough tools, thanks to you and your advocacy and the modeling that you provided, to bring other humans in with the confidence that they could provide them with the support that they needed to actually succeed, right? So you've been able to see what it looks like for a community to come together and stand in solidarity and create those steps. So what would you propose?
I will propose like, one of the things that I feel like we talked about was like having volunteer opportunities. I feel like if I had the chance to go back to the high school that I went, and I'll be able to share some knowledge with the students that I had, like with the new incoming students. If I will be able to go maybe once a week, or a program that will partnership with someone that needs my help, someone that is going through kind of the same situation that I went in. I feel like if I could be able to have that kind of relationship with students and be able to communicate with them and be like, hey, like this is what I did. Maybe it won't be the same way that you have to do it, but we can find ways to, to help you succeed, to make sure that you're doing well in classes. I feel like that is very important. I feel like giving the teachers the tools itself, I feel it's important too, because one of the things is like, you cannot give a student with this English as a second language something less than a C. And I have seen multiple teachers that didn't know this was a thing, and it's giving the student less than that, and it's just knowledge and stuff that are out there but are not being advocated for. So if we could be able to create that community, we could be able to create that partnership between the students that already went through the situations and the students that are going through right now. I feel that will be something that I feel like will help a lot. And it does not have to do with money. So we don't have to put money into that. It's volunteer work. It's something that I know multiple students will like to do. Yeah.
Right. So very like grassroots, very grassroots based ideas of how can we just as a community, even if your school was, which high school did you go to?
I went to Lakewood High School, Tempe.
Lakewood High School. Right. So if like we just focused on specific high schools that we have graduates from as well as relationships with, we can just start to, again, like unofficially grow that piece of grow that initiative.
Yes.
Right? Make that like peer-to-peer mentorship happen. That way, like teachers also feel like they continue to have support.
Exactly. I feel like if we could go back and just talk to them and just explain to them like, hey, because I feel a lot of the time it's hard for the teachers because the students start getting discouraged and they just don't try as hard because they feel like if they try still doesn't work. Like if we can still talk to the teacher and be like, this is the normal process we all went through. These are the tools that I can give you to help the students succeed. If we could, I know that when FAFSA time comes around, if we could have the opportunity to help them fill out their FAFSA, and there's a lot of students that after high school do not really have opportunities to do something else because maybe they're just undocumented or their situations are just different. And we could try to find a community that would eventually help these people out too. That would be awesome, because we just want them to succeed. That's our goal.
Yeah. Yeah. So setting processes in place, like from the beginning to the end to the after, as to how we can help our young humans who are in this situation succeed, right?
Yes.
100%. From a systemic level, Cami, you started the conversation saying the system is broken, right?
Yes.
100% in agreement with that. From a systemic level, what do you think needs to happen? Of course, I don't expect by any means for you to provide like a 12-step program, right? Because again, it's not your job, right? But if you had the opportunity to recommend something, let's say, right, from a systemic level, what would you recommend?
I definitely would recommend giving something more than a dictionary. I feel like that's really important, because we came to the conclusion that it's not a tool, it's an excuse. It won't help us. It just won't help us at all. I feel like maybe providing the exams in the language of the student, because at the end you're just testing knowledge. You're not if it's a science class and it's not an English class, we're not testing how good you are in English. We're just testing how much you know about photosynthesis. So if you can provide me the information that I need to know how the photosynthesis process work, then I don't understand why the language should be a key role in the situation. So I feel like providing the exams in the language of the students, and just I feel like the ESOL classes should eventually change as well, because for example, in my experience, my ESOL teacher was just sit in the corner and didn't truly try. So I feel like we should advocate for our teachers, because one of the things is to be able to teach an ESOL class, you need 3 semesters of college. 3 semester credit of college. That's what you need to in education related to that. But if you think about it, for example, I am a biomedical science student. That's my major, and I'm taking introduction to humanity. So I'm taking racial and ethnic relationship class, and how does that relate to what I eventually want to do with my biomedical science major? So. Right. That is something that we gotta fix, because the classes teachers should go into seminars and be provided the tools that they need to help the students succeed, not just a 3-hour credit semester class in college that may not help at all. I feel like the grading system should definitely be different. I don't think that holding the students at the same standard of because I remember that at a point, one of my teachers told me, well, this is high school reading. I have to grade you based on high school reading. But I was like, I only learned English 2 years ago. I feel like holding the same students at the same standard of what they should know when they only start learning English 3 months ago shouldn't be the way of grading at all.
Right. Should level the playing field.
Yes. I feel like it should be, yes. I feel like one of the other things that we can do is we can try to connect students in the same school to the students that are upcoming, maybe from their countries. I feel like if you have someone that, I don't know, maybe just came from China, and we have another student who we know has a Chinese background and feels comfortable, maybe just connecting them together could eventually create this partnership that will eventually help the students as well succeed. I think that would be good.
Absolutely.
But
I think a lot of
dictionary. No.
Not a dictionary. Yeah. I think definitely a lot of the peer-to-peer relationship building piece, right, could be very, very effective in also, yes, in acquiring skills and understanding more, right, about building not just your linguistic skills, but also building your knowledge base without having to lose one because of the other,
Yes.
right? And I want to quote you with, we are testing knowledge, not language. So why does language get tested at every single point,
Yes.
right? For every language, you're testing language for every single subject instead of just testing it for language, right? So I completely, like, fully agree with you on that. But I also think, like, certainly, like, this global pandemic is not something that anybody saw coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can only again imagine, you talked about that social circle, you talked about that friendship, not having that friendship despite being surrounded by so many people. So I would imagine for young humans who are in school and did build the kind of community that you built, this isolation is probably really, really difficult for them as well,
Mm-hmm.
from that perspective, you know? So I think, like, maybe giving it like a more holistic spin instead of just an academic spin, of focusing on how can we also fulfill people's social needs, communication needs, you know, and help them build those relationships in ways that they have community that's not just focused on their academics, but in other ways too.
I agree. I feel like helping them succeed as a person, it's really important. Help them understand, besides everything else they hear in the media, understand that you're welcoming our community, you're welcoming our school. Our goal is for you to succeed. If you give your 100%, we're going to give your 110 for you to grow. I feel like that is really important, like for them to understand that the decisions that their parents made, it's okay, and that they're welcome, and that they're going to succeed. I feel like, because I feel like we need to create a community to help them as person growth as well. Because if you have those tools, like if we give those tools to yourself when situations like this happen, that you don't see a person every day, and you are in your house, you understand, like, hey, I learned this, I know that I'm going to grow, I know that I deserve to be here, I know that I'm able to succeed, I am going to work hard.
Right.
So I feel like giving those tools to yourself, because like guiding you for you to find your way and your path, it's really important.
Mm-hmm. So when we have a situation that's as bad as this, we're not thinking about how to support people only when it's a bad situation like this.
Yeah.
Right? Or we're not starting to think about that only when something like this happens. We've already thought about it, which means they're prepared for when something like this takes place. Heard. Thank you so much, Cami. You've offered
I hope that helped. I hope that gives some insight into some of the situations that are going on for our students.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of humans who are listening to this and viewing this, and a lot of humans who will view this because we will post it to our story. Any last comments or, reflections that you want to offer?
I feel like, once again, I would just say one more time, it's about our students to succeed. It's about for them to grow as humans. And I just wish we'll just try our best, because that's our goal.
Okay, I will reiterate that and say our goal is 100%. All we want to do is see our young humans succeed. And if all we want to do is see our young humans succeed, then we need to give them the tools with which they can be successful.
Definitely. That's exactly
Thank you, Cami. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you, Sam.
This was such a pleasure. Thank you. All right, y'all. So hope y'all have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, comments, you can go ahead and reach out to me at sam@communitytampabay.org. sam@communitytampabay.org. If you didn't catch the first part of this video, we got cut off in the middle. So if you didn't catch the first part of the video, it's on our story. This video will also post live to our story if you only came in the middle. Thank you all so much for being here. Much love to Cami, as always. What a wonderful human, so much insight. Thank you for being here. We will have our next programming coming up at 8 p.m. tonight on our Zoom channel. So please feel free to join us for a Friday evening of self-reflection and winding down. Thank you all, folks. Have a wonderful rest of your day.